Great. Well, welcome. Today, Go Long Studios has Miss Kathleen McCordy of Texas Swim Academy.
Yes.
Welcome. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us. I've had two little ones go through the academy, Sophia and Cooper. And, spreading awareness is what we really like to help doing here. What inspired you to start Texas Swim Academy yourself? And it's been there quite a bit, right?
We've been doing this for 21 years now in the Katy community. Fear is what got me in this. I come from a background of nursing. I was an intensive care nurse. I'm a registered nurse. And so walked through a drowning. Part of my job in intensive care was, of course, organ harvest and walking through families as they're having to go through that very, very, very difficult time of choosing to donate organs. And, just the finality of something that was so accidental and so fast, and losing, a perfectly healthy person to something that somewhat preventable.
Yeah.
So what the fear was, it immediately got me into getting my children to swim. My in-laws had just put a pool in, just right out their back door. I couldn't even stand the thought of going to their house with my three. Yeah. My kids were 3, 2, and 6 months old, and it just terrified me, just having seen how tragically this all unfolded with this family. And so I immediately just started seeking out swim lessons. We lived in Austin at the time, and one of my dear friends helped me find somebody that taught swim lessons. She's another nurse, and her a friend that was a nurse. It always goes back to nurses.
You knew a lot.
We love wellness. Wellness, health, and safety. That's our thing. Mm-hmm. But so I got my kids in swim lessons, and it was a survival type program. It was a very aggressive one, but it was the only thing around at that time.
Yeah.
And to me, at that point, the end justified the means because I had this pool looming there.
Sure.
But the fun part was my kids learned to swim, and I was very proactive. I was a kid that always loved the water. It's a wonder I didn't drown because I was obsessed with
You were a fish.
Growing up. Well, I was just obsessed with pools, and my mother taught me how to swim. And, we went to the pool often. We just had a really great time in the water. And so I always had a love for swimming and playing in the water.
It was part of your memories, growing up as a kid.
Not really formal swimming, not swim team, that sort of thing wasn't around as much.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about way back in the 1900s. But just really having a good time in the water and how much fun that was. So I was really very proactive in having the instructor show me how to practice with my kids.
At home, yeah. What can I do to
swim with my kids?
Maintain.
And, I want to play with them. So I took them to the pool all the time. And they swim well. So then fast forward to 1997, we moved to Katy.
Yeah.
And part of my negotiation of leaving Austin was, okay, I'll move to Houston where it's extremely hot, but I want a pool.
Yeah.
The kids swim, I want a pool.
Sure.
And so we put in a pool in almost immediately when we got here. Our kids were fish.
Yes.
Well, what happens when you do something like that?
They have friends too, and maybe friends come.
Or you have another baby.
Oh, okay.
You complicate things.
Number 4
came
awesome.
along. In 1998, we had number 4, and we had a pool, which was absolutely terrifying.
Back to where it was again.
To where it was again.
And you're in a new city, no connections.
And I called around every swim facility in Houston because I was willing to drive. I drove in Austin. I drove an hour each way to get lessons.
Oh, wow.
To me, it was critically important.
Yeah, very much so.
I wasn't going to do the other side of this, the ugly side of drowning. And so I finally found an instructor in Champions. I drove from Katy to Champions.
Oh, my gosh.
And then when
you were determined.
I was determined.
Yes.
When my little one was about a year old, she moved to Atlanta. Of course, she was a nurse as well.
Yeah, okay.
She moved to Atlanta. But she did connect me with another nurse out of Dallas. And that one would come down here a couple times a year and teach in my backyard with friends. And she did this till my little one was in kindergarten. And she kept telling me, you need to train. No one is teaching this in Katy.
Really?
And so finally I was like, yeah, but I just loved that season of being home with my kids when they were little. I was very blessed to get to do that and no regrets on being home with them.
100%.
But when she started school, then it was like, maybe I should think about doing this. The kids are busy, kids are expensive. There's a lot of activities to pay for. Let's start. So I trained in 2004 in a certification program teaching infants and young children, preschool children, And it turns out I had an aptitude for it.
Yeah.
Loved the whole process of it, science background. So I love the child development. I love how kids learn, love how seeing that. And we grew and grew and grew. So we started that in 2004. In 2012, I opened the Texas Swim Academy over on Greenbush.
Yes.
With my husband.
Okay.
And, we've been very blessed to get to do something we truly love. I don't teach like I taught I don't teach like I did when I was trained, because I found that program still to be a bit more aggressive than I had taste for. I'm a much more gentle approach person now.
Okay.
I love the child development. How do young children learn? How can we help them be successful without being traumatic, without, it's how young children cry sometimes, but why do they cry? Are they crying because you're not mama?
And that's the thing is they all learn differently too.
They learn differently. That's why I love doing the one-to-one lessons on beginners.
Yes.
And, and just realize that young children, we're not born with the innate ability to control our emotions or to regulate our emotions. So how can we help them be comfortable and secure? And, I talked about swimming with my mother so much. Well, there was this pool I loved to go to in Lubbock. It was called Maxie Pools, one of the neighborhood parks and recreation. Mm-hmm. I thought it was an Olympic-sized pool.
Yes.
My little 7-year-old.
It seemed, in your scale, maybe it was.
It seemed enormous, and then I saw it as an adult. It's actually smaller than my big pool.
Really?
But what stuck with me is the enormity of the size of that pool, that vastness that these children see when they get in the big pool. And so that's why I designed my facility like I did, where it has all the small ones,
yeah.
Because it takes away that vastness, that big open scary space. It also brings in kind of that backyard feel, that intimate environment where the parent can be poolside and part of that lesson and, be interactive in it, even if they're not in the water, but they're there and they're part of the lesson.
They're present, yeah.
They're present. And, we can work with them too and talk to you, get to know you. What are your needs at home with the pool and how can we best help you?
Exactly.
That's one of the other reasons why I implemented the parents. I love to do a parent education lesson.
Yes.
You did with me.
Yes.
And because I want to show you how to practice with your child at home.
And that's so important is like, parents practice volleyball or baseball at home with their kids in between practices to help them get better or, so I thought that was very important, valuable things that we could work on, right?
Yeah, because we find that parents, they're like, well, I don't want to mess them up, so I'm going to put them in this pedal jumper while we're at home. And we're like,
no.
Please don't.
Tell me why, about that puddle jumper, because I remember being told that too. And what was so funny was you were like, why did you just call it an ice cream cone? Well, Sophia had ice cream cones all over hers, and that was like her security blanket, right? And so you were adamant and you said, no, that's the value is not to have it because it, provides consistency from what we're doing here, but also the philosophy behind it. I'd love to hear your explanation.
What you're going to see, everywhere's like, oh, well, it puts them in a drowning position. It puts them vertical. It does all these things. And it does. But the bottom line, like I said, my fascination with child development, children do what they practice.
Yes.
Your child practices jumping in all day long with no one there to catch them. They think it's okay to get in the water by themselves.
It's a very good
They
point.
don't realize that it's just this flotation device holding them up. They think it's A-okay for me to be jumping in by myself. Well, guess what? It's not.
No.
It's not okay for you to enter the water by yourself.
Yeah.
And so I always encourage parents, be in the water with your child, especially when they're young. I know it's a hassle right now, but this is a short season in your life. Promise you, they're going to grow up and they're not going to need you to be in the water playing with them all the time.
But if you think back and you look at it, you'd give $1 million to have that opportunity.
But it's a huge formation time for them and their skills and their security. So I want to show you how to play with them, things you can practice at home that are going to help them be safe. What do we do if we fall in? How do we turn and go get that wall? How do we just practice swimming and keep our good position so we can roll on our back and float and all those things?
And that, so I think you answered my next question of how you differentiate from others. We went to 2 or 3 places. We did the at-home before we found Texas Swim Academy. It was, let's do the at-home. Let's look at what's close by, franchise kind of style. Or I think it was, I take that back, it was at the gym that we're members at. And, the at home, it was, she said, blankly, like, I don't do survival. I think that's where you should start. And I'll work with your daughter, but I think survival is more important at this stage. Out of her just goodness and well-being of the child that she wanted was, sending business elsewhere. And at the second one, you've got a kid that's, in their teens teaching your child that probably doesn't have the willingness to care or, and so I see where you're going that, but when they're going in, and I think the biggest thing that scared me was I had a teenager in there with two kids that were toddlers, like under 2 years old. And they're, what do? One kid gets out, starts running, and that kid's, in danger. But you can't leave this kid because they're, so I just think it was, not to their fault, but it was just, payroll efficiency of a big corporation. So, seeing that and going to your facility where it's that one-on-one and that, tailor fitting, getting to know the child and assigning the coach that's probably the best fit.
Survival swim should be taught by trained instructors. It's not something you want somebody to fly by the seat of their pants. And believe me, they're here and they're in our Katy market. That they're like, oh, yeah, I can do that. I saw somebody teaching it, and I know I can do that too.
Yeah.
They're like, but do you understand the dangers? I mean, there's a reason why we don't do even Mommy and Me for under 6 months old. American Academy of Pediatrics and some of the other organizations on that with child safety, they're recommending now that children under the age of 6 months old don't even drink water, breast milk, formula, Pedialyte if they're ill. They don't have the ability to control their sodiums well. So to me, that stands to reason that you have no business teaching a 6-month-old mommy or under 6-month-old Mommy and Me, even if it's just water acclimation, which is a whole nother story.
Sure.
But just we want to be safe. You want to make sure you're doing the safety things. There's a reason why even when I'm teaching infants and young children, I don't do submersions until they're well into knowing their rotations.
Correct.
And that breath holding and stuff, because you just really got to be careful with these babies and these little kids. And it needs to be somebody that knows what they're doing teaching these kids.
Oh, and you touched on it earlier. It's before you don't want to scare them away from it before they even get started, right?
Right.
That's really a big thing is making them feel comfortable, scaling that pool size down.
Right.
I think those are all differentiators that TSA does that people really don't think of or mindful when they're shopping for an academy. So as far as evolvement, I mean, since you've been in the market this long, how's your business evolved or, different, I'd say taking on new challenges or seeing new things out there in the market that are just staying with the times, if you will?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest challenge, especially in Katy right now, is just, the proliferation of investor groups in the swim market. If it's shiny and glittery, it's probably an investor group.
Yeah,
I can tell you, it's not mom and pop with just unlimited funds to.
Correct.
Everything that glitters isn't gold.
Yeah, that's very true.
They're truly not interested in whether or not your child learns to swim. They want that monthly registration draft, that monthly fee draft, and that's all they care about.
Yeah.
And there's just a huge amount of that entering into the market now, and that's probably, our biggest competition. But yeah, they're pretty and they're shiny, but they got no substance. There's one here in town that teaches in flotation device.
Oh, no.
I know. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's because you don't know how to teach.
100%. 100%. And those investment groups have those marketing dollars behind.
Absolutely.
And I think, in any industry, they're good at just jarring something that isn't what it is, and they're okay with it because they're grab and go onto the next, right? So sustainability, I mean, that's kind of how your business has evolved, is just I guess sustaining those pop-ups while they rise and fall.
Yeah, and just, we're just doing the best lessons we can possibly put out there.
Yeah.
Taking care of every child. I mean, as a family-owned business and family-operated business, our 2 sons work with us as well. We truly care if your child learns to swim or not.
Correct.
If your child is struggling, if there's any child at our facility, Texas Swim Academy, struggling in a lesson, I'm told about it. And I get in, or one of my sons get in.
You're involved, yeah.
We get in there and we see what's going on. How can we help this child be successful? Because usually it's just some little change. A
little tweak.
That can help them, it's a fear. Often it's asking the parents, so have we had a traumatic experience? Well, it wasn't so bad. He fell in our pool and he was on the bottom, but we got him out right away.
Ooh.
Well, that may not have been traumatic for you.
Not for you, maybe for the kid. Yeah.
He may have some residual issues with that for a minute. We just got to get him comfortable again.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
So it's just a lot with these little guys and just helping them be secure and safe. And I want them to have a lifelong love of swimming.
Correct.
And just to show it. And that's one of the reasons you're never going to see us throwing a child in the pool.
Yeah.
And I saw that on this week.
Yeah.
In social media, there's an instructor that loves to drop kids in. I work with your child to gain.
It's traumatic. I mean, yeah, exactly.
I work to gain your trust. I'm not going to throw your child in the pool and betray their trust.
No.
If your
the child's and the parents.
If your child is telling me, please don't put me under, I'm going to say, you know what, darling, I'm not going to put you under.
Correct.
And guess what? I'm not going to put them under.
Yeah.
I will encourage them to learn how to put their own face in it. We may put little at a time, but I'm not going to betray your child's trust. If I tell them I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do that to them. And I'm not going to throw them in and scare them either.
Yeah.
We worked hard to be trustworthy.
Yeah, you're starting the clock over too then, essentially.
You are.
And I mean, back to the whole monthly, drafting and whatnot. I mean, you're scaled a little bit differently in that sense too. And it's more about achievements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, here's, we'll just take that monthly until you cancel kind of thing.
Right. Well, and our programs are set up a little differently. Everybody's like, oh, you're so expensive.
Mike, just a little bit closer. Sorry. No, you're fine.
Our programs are a little bit different in how we schedule and do our lessons. Young children learn in short, repetitive bursts. You don't do math once a week and expect to get good in math.
Yes.
And it's kind of same with swimming. Something that it's a big skill. It's a lot of gross motor movement. It's a lot of learning, just a lot of little things. So we do either 3 or 4 days a week for the first, 5 to 7 weeks, depending. And it's those short, repetitive lessons. Everybody's like, well, you're so expensive. Well, we're a little bit more front-loaded. And they're like, well, but it's only 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the deal. If you're in a 30-minute class with 4 minutes, if they start exactly the second you get in the water with instruction, everybody listens, everybody does exactly what they're supposed to do, your child may get 7 minutes of instruction.
Correct.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And that's if every preschool child listens and follows instructions. And what are the odds?
Ask my wife. She teaches, pre-K, kindergarten. So, yeah, she'd tell you.
Unpredictable.
Very much so.
And so it really is kind of a different focus. So, people, it's not just about price, because if you calculate out actual instruction per dollar, we're the least expensive lessons in town. Mm-hmm. And so, we've always just kind of been, we discover the difference here. We actually put skill on your children, and we get kids that have been swimming, a year somewhere else, and they're like, oh, they learned more in 3 days than they've learned in a year.
Well,
yeah. That's what individual instruction does for you.
Yeah, it does. And so, the survival swimming, and then, at what age do you recommend? And is there a kind of a consistent age, or is there a stage in their development as a toddler that you'd recommend that, they begin the survival, and then what are the stages after that?
Mobility. That's the number one. So little bits, your baby under a year old, typically drowning in a bathtub is your big risk.
Okay.
Never, ever, ever leave your child, even for a second. Don't turn your back on your child for a second in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Ever.
Sure.
Just don't. But when they start being mobile, they start crawling. They're still slower. They're less likely to get into your pool. But by the time they start toddling and walking, they get busy.
They do.
They just get busy. And they're not being naughty. They're just curious. They're learning.
Yeah.
They're just checking out everything in their little world.
Little curious Georges.
They are indeed. They're just learning every second of the day. And that's when the risk starts. It's also the gross motor skills that really can help that child learn how to swim and roll on their back and float and do those independent skills. For a younger child that's not quite walking, I would say even your 12-month-olds, it's independent swim to roll to their back and float. And it's kind of where float is a destination at that point.
Yes.
We get them there. They stay there until you can get them.
Mm-hmm.
Does swim lessons make a child drown-proof? Never.
Correct. Yeah.
Never. What do they buy you? They buy you time.
That's
if your child can roll on their back and float, that gives them the opportunity to yell for help.
There you go.
But, for preschool children, though, as they begin, their gross motor skills and developmental levels are changing, but then we begin to start swimming. We start having fun. We learn to swim between mama and daddy. We learn to swim to the steps. We learn how to reach the wall and grab and pull up. And then swimming becomes a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
At those ages.
Because then they know their, limitations, but they also know what they're capable of. And they're going to enjoy their threshold, right?
Right.
And so on that, the swim lessons for their child. So when they're kind of just rolling over, looking at it and outside of that bath. So, what are the things that I guess you'd say that the parents should look for in an academy that really, educates them, so in other cities, like if there isn't a Texas Swim Academy available, what are those boxes that they want to check with the school that they can do by research or sitting down with someone like yourself, an owner of an academy?
Of course, every child is unique. They all learn uniquely. Yeah. But there's certain thresholds you should be looking for in a lesson. What are they going to actually learn? Are they going to learn to put their face in and roll over and breathe? Yeah, or roll over and be able to find their air. Are they going to be able to learn an independent float? Mm-hmm. To be able to get themselves to an independent float? How are we going to progress this? Is this one-on-one or is this a group of kids? Or is it mommy and me? What are we looking for? And I know every parent's a little bit different in what you're comfortable with in your parenting, and we like to respect that as well. Nobody knows your kid like you know your kid. Mm-hmm. And, but you just want to look for what are the benchmarks going to be, because there's some places you may be on level 12 and you really don't even know how to swim yet. But it's like, okay, so level 1 was learning to blow some bubbles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah,
we
bubbles
can do that in the bathtub.
100%.
But it's like, what are the real skills we're learning? Are we actually learning how to swim? Are we learning how to float? What are we going to do if the child falls in? Because my big beef with some of these water acclimation is we're teaching the child that the most dangerous place in your home is fun, with no skills to back it up.
It's true. Yeah.
And that's, that's the thing. It's the part of your house that can actually take your child's life.
Yeah, and that's just super scary. But to your point about so I don't own a pool. Well, what's the importance? Because I don't know how to swim. Your story right there of you were scared to go to your sister's house.
Yeah, my in-laws' house. I didn't want to go see the in-laws.
So how can as far as just giving those parents the confidence that may not even know to swim themselves, giving them the confidence and the sense of urgency to get their kid into class. I may even just chime in here on, the survival swimming, because that child's going to be able to swim to, an edge and hold on.
Uh-huh.
You're out of the water pulling your kid up, ideally, right? But giving them the confidence and not the embarrassment to take their kid to lessons. I mean, what advice do you have, or speak into the camera and send them to you, because they need it.
Just do it. And even as a parent, it's never too late to learn to swim. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is something that's lifelong, and we do actually teach a lot of adult lessons. Typically, a parent, after they've seen their children's success, and I'm going to tell the mamas on this. Don't sit on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Don't sit back and watch your family have fun. Let us help you get in there.
Yeah.
Let's get in there and have fun with them. Don't be left out.
No, I agree.
We can help you with that for sure. And don't be embarrassed. I mean, we love teaching adults. I think the oldest person we taught to swim was a woman that was like 73.
No way.
Yeah. She just like, it's always, I've just always wanted to learn, but I was always afraid to learn. And then I just never got the chance to learn. And I really want to learn to swim. And we're like, get your suit on.
Yeah, go get it.
We're learning how to swim.
Come on.
And she did. She successfully learned how to swim, and she met this goal of hers. And it was just
her.
And I mean, our whole staff was just, nobody was like, "Oh, yeah, look at her." We were all cheering.
Everybody knew about her progress, I'm sure.
We all wanted her success for her, and
that's amazing.
And that's what with any parent, or it's never be nervous or embarrassed about it. We want your success. We want you to have fun with this.
And it really is. It's special because the topic that I'm getting here now is some
a little personal, is it?
Yeah, it is. The success story about how you saved a child's life. I'm getting a little emotional, but it saved my son's. And we had that conversation, and that's why I'm hosting you, is because I wanted this word to get out. And it was very simple.
Mm-hmm.
We were just out cooking, and it was I was watching the pizza oven, and I was watching him, and he's there, and then the dog's there, and we have this raised hot tub from our pool, and Chloe likes to cut a corner, and she bopped him in a little bit, and I was telling you the pizza oven can cook a pizza in under a minute and a half. I was looking, and I hadn't even turned it, so my eyes had been off of him maybe 30 seconds at most. But I look over after I hear a dad, and I'm like, okay, I know where he is. I check in, but he's in the hot tub upside down. He had done what he had supposed to be, and he was grabbing and holding on to that ledge. And it scares me to think of what he would have done had he not. But it's just the confidence that he had, and it didn't scare him. And he had done it before. It was the repetition, and it was almost just like, this is a normal day at the office. They do
what they practice. They really do what they practice.
Yeah.
And, and the really important part of this, I want to reiterate, it's not bad parenting. People are like, well, I watch my kids. It's not that you're not watching your kids. You were right there. This happened in just seconds. I can vouch for that. It happened silently.
Yeah.
Y'all were doing nothing wrong. You were outside.
It wasn't a splash. It was just a bump into a shallow area. But, it scares you is all the what ifs after.
It does. It truly does scare you on the what ifs. But the thing is, you had done all the right things. He had been practicing. He did what he practiced. He knew his skills, and again, it bought you time.
Yeah, it did. It bought me time.
Time. And that's what we sell. We sell time.
Yeah, you sell it well.
And fun.
You sell it well. Yeah, that and fun, and
fun.
And again, like to your point of fun, you gave us time, right? It was part of his training, so he wasn't freaked out. It was me,
right?
But the fun is that he's not scared of that, and he's going to go back to continue to have fun.
Right.
So, in that being said, I can't thank you enough. And when we were talking about it, I said, will you come on here to the show? And when we were doing the one-on-one lesson with Lo and I, and you were giving us all the practice points and everything. So it was super cool. In that being said, the layers of protection behind it, you're learning, that you have another business as well.
We did.
Is mentioning that this, you sell time, right?
You sell time.
What, outside of, the phases of the survival training, in clothes, how to react differently than, in a prepared swimsuit, that teaching them and having the, I guess, the interruption of they're going out into a beach or a boat. That was our challenge. So the life jacket. So these layers of protection that are just life, parts of life. What do you recommend in those senses of, you had touched on no puddle jumpers.
Yeah, and you know what, a puddle jumper, and there's a lot of misinformation about those. Everybody said, well, they're Coast Guard approved.
Mm-hmm.
They are Coast Guard approved for open water. They are not Coast Guard approved for backyard use. Mm-hmm. They are not meant to be a swim aid or teach swimming. They are strictly, they're recommended to wear like at the beach, out in open water on a lake, that sort of thing. Personally, I prefer...
We don't do puddle jumpers on my boat. It's, you're wearing the Coast Guard approved life jacket.
Yes, life jacket. Yeah. And, we would love to help you even fit a life jacket for your child. You can bring it by. We've done a lot. We can practice. Again, children do what they practice.
Yeah.
We can practice a lesson in their life jacket, showing them how to do their rotations and get on their back if they're wearing it.
I never thought about that.
And so those are things we do just to help them be safer, because we always want them to know, knowledge is power. And just
100%.
Knowing what to do in those situations and having done it before. So it's not new and novel when it's crunch time. Those are all things we love to help you with on that. But I personally recommend a life jacket. Mm-hmm. I like the ones with the headrest on the back, prefer flotation on the front, but not the back, because they can stay on their back float better.
That puts them back into that position. Okay, that makes sense.
Their face is up out of the water, where if there's padding on both the front and back, it makes them a little bobbly.
Yep.
And so just a little bit more secure on that back where their face is up and out. Again, we're behind time.
Yep.
And
true.
So, but we always want to make sure the kids are wearing life jackets in a boat. Of course, it is the law.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you see, those, I call them the cubes, but, I always keep on hand. It's always like, safety check is, make sure everyone has a life jacket, everyone holds it up. But, with the kiddos, the ones that we were recommended, it's that the kind of like a little pillow behind, nothing on the back, and then the front is that more buoyant part. So it forces it. And now that I've watched him go through the survival, it makes sense now.
Right.
100%.
We also want the strap between the legs as well.
Yes.
Just
Okay.
kind of keep the jacket from coming up on them too high, and, just to keep them in a nice, secure position.
And that's, you notice, because that's what it'll do. It'll just kind of just go up, and then now it's more of a burden than a safety device.
Yeah, so we want to make it where they're able to get into a good position to have their face up out of the water.
Sure.
Those sort of things.
Outside of, that, as far as just advice in your backyard, what are some measures and safety practices that you could do if, you're a pool owner at home?
Another thing, and you touched on, we do have another business, Houston Pool Fence. Mm-hmm. We are a Lifesaver pool fence distributor, which is a really high quality, meets all the safety guidelines of any state that requires pool fencing, Florida, Arizona, California. They're 48-inch tall fences. They've got the self-closing, self-latching gates. They also have key lock mechanisms that we can do on there. Mm-hmm. Those, again, we're buying time.
Yeah, sure.
Nothing is ever foolproof with a child. We know they're creative and they're fast.
Oh my gosh, they are, yeah.
They're curious. But, just different things. You teach them how to swim. You have the safety equipment. You as a parent know CPR.
Yes.
You have a barrier, one last thing to keep them from getting into that pool. Mm-hmm. And these are all things that you can do. They're called, layers of protection.
Layers, yeah.
And so we just want to put more and more layers there. Think of it like Swiss cheese. Each cheese piece has a hole in it. But you put enough layers of cheese together, you can cover up a lot of those holes.
Correct.
And so the goal is to keep the child from being unattended in the water.
Yes. And so, when people are looking for, that fencing, to your point, you can go on and buy one from Amazon, or you can go and get one that's supposed to do what it's supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
What are your recommendations on what things to look for in that type of fencing?
Something that's DIY that's not really DIY. So you're talking about the Amazon fencing, and there is, Lifesaver itself does have a branding of that on Amazon. The strength of your pool fence is in the installation.
Yes.
Do you have the proper tools?
I'm not drilling in concrete.
Drilling concrete.
If I do, I'm messing it up.
Probably. and it's the quality. There's a difference. The reason the materials from us are more expensive than the ones on Amazon is the quality.
Sure.
It's 100% quality. The thickness of the poles, the solid core versus a hollow core pole. Full 1-inch solid core versus I don't even know what those are.
Yeah.
And the quality of the mesh, so, lifetime warranties on it. They make sure that fence is going to stay in good quality, good repair, and, be around for as long as you need it for your kids. And which is really, people are like, when can we take down the fence? Every child is different, but when they have good impulse control, when you can tell your child, okay, we're not going into the backyard right now. And they're going to actually listen. The time when you can take those safety locks off the cabinets and you're not worried about them getting in there. And
we're still there.
Right, exactly. It's just that impulse control time in their life when they're really just not trustworthy. Trustworthy is not the good word for it. It's just that they don't have that knowledge to just, and self-control, to not get into stuff. And it's not naughtiness, it's just
curiosity.
They just are busy. They're busy little people.
They are. Very. And so, with our backyard, there is a good distance between the pool and whatnot. But even just the home, like the bell chiming if a door opens, it's like almost, we're programmed now. Just, okay, what was that?
What was that? Yeah.
There's
full alarms.
Sometimes he likes to just open the door and let the dogs just run out because he's like, I'm trying to watch cartoons. Y'all are too loud.
Right.
But you're like, don't go out with them. But, just that self-awareness.
Yeah.
You were touching on CPR for parents.
Yes.
Let's, I don't want to brush over that. I'd love to, hear some more of, where the importance of it. But do you also offer it, or do you have recommendations on, how to go out there and achieve those skills?
Yes and no. I do have ideas on that. We do offer it periodically through our facility. We just had one recently on February 7th, but we try to do quarterly CPR classes, and there's an organization that we work with here that so we can get together classes there.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is she does really great pricing for my clients and families.
It's amazing.
Way less than you're going to get anywhere else.
We always did the group when I ran country clubs. I had to make sure my staff was, because not that we have pools on, but you're playing golf in Houston in the summer, you got to understand CPR because of heat stroke and all kinds of things, right? So we would do a group setting, and that was real effective. We had a higher participation rate. Even members would come and join us with the staff,
right?
To be prepared to learn how to use IEDs and the CPR and all that, and what to look for, the do's and don'ts. So
that's an important thing about CPR, not to interrupt you, but
no problem.
70% chance the person you're going to do CPR or life-saving measure on is in your immediate family.
70%?
70%. Guess what?
Didn't want to learn that.
But
that is a very astonishing fact.
Knowledge is power. Knowing CPR, knowing what to do in a choking, knowing how to react quickly. It's just the people you're with. You're with them. And
goes back to also buys you time. And so, just knowing what to do in those things, how to get the 911 activated, how to get them, proper instructions to getting there, how to open an airway to get air. All of these things that buy time are helpful for you. They are. And as far as is getting the community outreach, right? And Katie well. You've been here longer than I have, but I've noticed it's a very supportive community. Do you do any local events out there like that you go out and get to kind of create awareness, or is there something that you'd like to see in the near future of just the community doing in that sense?
We do a few here and there. We're going to be doing a splash day awareness with Naomi's Grace. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but it's another organization that works in drowning prevention. Unfortunately, had lost a child very tragically. And, so there are different events that we do, but mostly we're at the Texas Swim Academy teaching the best swim lessons in town.
There you go.
That's where we spend most of our time.
Yeah, and it's you're very efficient. The setup's good, and like you said, when you go in there and you see what all gets done in those 15 minutes, you're like, you know what? The effectiveness is amazing. Both children, again, have been through there, and I think it's going to be about time pretty soon with Cooper on to stage 2. So what is after the survival? And what to expect, say, going from that class to the next stage? What what comes from it.
We'll do a little refresh with him. Of course, his skills are going to be pretty good. We'll get that all brushed up, but we're going to start learning freestyle. I mean, it takes a little bit to get to there, but by the time they're age 4, children can do summer league swim team here in Katy. And so we want to get them there.
Yeah.
And so just learning how to elongate his body in the water, how to move really efficiently, how to use that float for a breath, not a destination, just a park.
Correct.
Which is what we have the little younger ones doing, but really learning to utilize that float as a breath and just, roll over, catch some air and keep going and having a good time.
Keep going and having a good time. Yeah. Because, and one thing that's really cool that I'd love everybody to hear is because, it's cold here right now. It's February. It's our coldest month. And I'd mentioned, I said, ooh, I bet that water's cold, but what'd you tell me?
Yeah, it's a toasty 93.
A toasty 93. So, it's
I don't like
year-round.
to be cold.
No,
yeah.
I don't.
In the summer, we have to turn the heat down just a little bit because we get too sweaty.
Yeah.
It gets too hot.
No, I can
But
imagine.
this time of year, we got to stay warm in that water with the babies and us and everybody else. But we're wrapping up the cold here probably this weekend. And
Hopefully so.
And we're on to spring and summer and swimming and having fun and being outdoors and all those things.
Yeah, and as far as getting out there and preparedness is now's a good time to do it. Then.
Now is a great time
because you're not in those settings where you're around pools, you're around bodies of water, you're not traveling for family vacations. Get it done now,
right?
And I think within just the time frame of survival school, what does that look like as far as like length, and then the next phases? I mean, what's the average length of that?
Typically, the basic program in about 5 weeks, most kids can swim a little bit and roll over and float. Mm-hmm. And so there's time for your child to learn how to swim this summer. Before the summer. Yeah, to be ready for those spring break trips, to get kids ready for summer league, to get ready for all those things. But a brand new swimmer right now, there's time to know how to swim for this swim season.
That's amazing. So, we're gonna put these clips out and help spread awareness within the community. And what else would you like to see as far as the awareness in the community? You just always hate that there's just awareness starts being spread because of something bad that happened.
Right. Yeah. I mean, don't wait for a tragedy to start worrying about this. Swimming should be fun. Let's learn how to swim. This is a life skill.
It is.
Especially when you live somewhere like Katy where water is everywhere. Even if you don't have a pool, your neighbor may have a pool, your grandparents have a pool, your friends have a pool.
The neighborhood, yeah.
And, people are like, well, my child is 6 and he doesn't know how to learn. He hasn't learned to swim yet. Well, here's the scary part. Peer pressure starts kicking in a little bit. He goes over to some friend's house. The friend does have a pool, and they decide to get, they're out there playing around. Mm-hmm. And parents are kind of a little bit more lax because their child knows how to swim, and they're not even thinking that, this other little 6-year-old doesn't know how to swim at all. Mm-hmm. Well, then that's how accidents happen. Yeah. Your child may be compromised just because they're embarrassed that they don't know how to swim. They may just jump in with their friend.
Correct. Yeah.
And so we want to just make sure that they're secure in their skills and, have what they need to be safe. And
and parents don't need to be afraid to, how would they check in to make sure when they are having kids over there? I mean, is there good traits or maybe actions that parents should look out for?
I just straight up asked, does your child know how to swim? Let's not even beat around the bush on this. Does your child swim? Yeah. We have a pool. Does your child swim?
Yeah.
And because, that's something you need to know of as a parent. Every child that comes over to your home, you need to know whether they know how to swim if you have a pool in your backyard, especially if it doesn't have a barrier.
Yep. Because, you don't want to become liable just trying to have a good time.
And you just don't want to put some child at risk or not even realize that there is a risk there.
Correct.
Because you're a little bit more relaxed because your kids are swimming good. And it's not necessarily at the forefront on your mind, but we just want to make sure that no child is at risk. Parents want to do right by their kids. And when they're seeking out swim lessons, they're getting swim lessons because they want their children to learn to swim. That's what my frustration with a lot of places that don't teach your child how to swim.
Yeah.
Because parents are trying to do the right thing. They want their child to have these skills. They want their child to be safe. They're watching their child. It's just accidents do happen.
100%. I can testify to that.
We can all testify to that.
We can, you know. So, well, thank you for your time. This has been amazing. Thanks for helping spread the awareness. We'll, of course, you know, be letting everyone know how to get a hold of your academy, and might I say the awesome blue bags that come with it. I hope they're still there, or we'll edit it out.
They're still there.
It is our water bag anywhere we go. So you've got a walking advertisement there. My wife loves that bag. It's great for loading the towels up, loading the kids' stuff up.
Right.
If we're near a body of water, that thing's coming. So,
And it is.
but thank you for everything you've done. Thank you to all your instructors. You know, Cooper, she better be back there when he comes, because his eyes, if he did not have heard, I think it was only once that she wasn't there.
He was just like,
He's like, no, not doing it today. Nope, Dad, I'm clocking out. But she was just so good to him and so patient with, you know, like you say, at first it was like, is that a cry or is that just, you know, well, pay attention and you know, just making sure you're there. So, but it taught Mom and I, and then also more importantly, the rest of our family members of kind of, you know, here's how Cooper's having fun right now, and here's what we're doing. Here's what he can do and can't do.
Sure.
And we were confident in saying that because, you know, we know he was taught, but it just put us both in the pool and having good times with our kids.
Have a good time with your kids.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is organically, it I don't want to say forces, but it gets us both in the pool doing family stuff, which is stuff you're going to regret if you did miss 10 years from now.
Well, and that's it. And I'll kind of circle back to another teaching moment. I do encourage you to be in the water with it because, again, like the puddle jumpers where they're jumping in and they're practicing getting in the pool by themselves, if they see you said you're on the side of the pool, and yes, you're actively watching their child, but again, they're entering that pool by themselves, and we just don't want them to ever think for a second that that's okay to get in the pool alone.
Yep. No, I agree. Well, thank you again for your time today.
You're very welcome.
And we'll see you again soon, but I'll be in the facility with Cooper, and his big sister's going to go in there to make sure he's, staying on the up and up. Thank you, Kathleen. You have a great day.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes,
It's a pleasure.
Yes, appreciate it.